world. So we'll just kind of go back over some of the things that I've seen on these charts. I have to tell you, this new chart, I'm not real comfortable with it yet because I haven't spent enough time, I think, with it. So by all means, if anybody makes a discovery using that, be sure and share it with the rest of us. I'm a little more comfortable with my old system, and of course every time I see a day like today I want my diagnostic bars back, but I guess that ship sailed. So I am also looking at this this shadow continuum bars on TF, and it strikes me that it's a little easier to trade with there, but then TF does not, the indices do not respond like a commodity. Some of these commodities, and crude oil in particular, crude oil and gold is much more volatile to trade than crude oil in my view, but they respond differently than the indices, and the indices tend to sort of lumber along and don't get too crazed too fast, which crude oil can do. So anyway, having said that, the ICE, this is the ICE that is being tested right now that I have. It's resetting right now at the end of the market, and I would like to caution all of you futures traders. I very strongly urge you to go to the CME website and double check the markets you are trading for the day margin and closing hours, and then triple check that with your broker, because they are moving up the times to about 15 minutes before the close, that the day margin, which is a greatly reduced than the maintenance margin, changes right then. So you could get kind of a surprise if you're not aware of that. And this will not affect everybody because not everybody's trading futures, but by all means double check that on the CME website, and then double check it with your broker to make sure that your day margin is going to hold until you think the market's closing, because they change rules from time to time. You know, this is electronic trading. Anyway, keep in mind that with these ICE zones, we're all kind of attached to watching the red, green, and the midline blue for ICE. What that's telling us is where 80% of the volume was the last session, the previous session. So one of the reasons we haven't seen the ICE lines show up today is because today the market has gone up above, substantially above, where it was trading at least 80% of the volume traded on Friday. And tomorrow I think we'll see it a little more useful to us. So hang on to that thought. I have looked at, I'm going to make this one chart a little bit bigger in case we have some new people. I'll try to point out a couple things to you, because I think it was Friday that Leah was talking about how this is kind of like a candy store. You go into the candy store and you already know you can't eat all the candy. So you just have to pick and choose the flavors you like. But from about 8:30 this morning in crude oil, I put these big dotted lines on here are in the indicators. It's not an Apex indicator, it is a NinjaTrader indicator, and they are under S for swing, You can just add that if you like these. But Daryl has pointed out how the market will go from swing low to swing high, and this is a perfect example. When it went down here this morning, let me get my pointer. Went down here this morning and hit this, and then it came back and tested it. We're still above this EME line. So when it got right here, it bounced right off of here. You had plenty of time to take this trade at the top of this zone band right here. If you were a little hesitant, there's nothing in the world wrong with that. But as it came through here, there's a deviation level right here. For me, taking that trade right here, if I was not already in it, would be a bit of a problem because I don't like the distance from this deviation to what was at that time the high of the day. Many times you will see these markets bounce off of the high of the day. But in this case, if you had gotten in down here, then just continue to trail your stop. The first target that you would expect it to go to would be the next deviation, and this is a magnet right here. If you're still trailing your stop, the top of the range channel is the next likely spot. Then this magnet, and then you probably would have gotten out. I mean, you can continue. You can look at the old 6 tick over here and see what it's telling you, but a run from the top of this right here is about 46.05 up to this magnet of about 46.60. That's a 55 tick run. So what we know is that when you get 50 or 55 ticks in your ready to deposit in your tick bank, don't be taking silly chances and giving up. You protect that profit. And so it would have been protected here. If you got a few more ticks, fine. But you are never going to get all the way from the bottom of this swing to the top of this swing. You're looking for somewhere in the 55, 60, on a real good day, 65 or 70% of that run. So don't get in this thing about how it has to be perfect, because it's not going to ever be perfect. But you're looking for the midsection. You want the fillet cut right out of that. That was a good juicy steak right there. So then if you go on, we're still in the green apex formation, so we know we have a northbound bias to the market, but it's going to bounce up and down. You could have taken another trade either at the top of this P, or you're coming off of this. And if you notice this right here, this bar went down and went about 1, maybe 2 ticks below the EMA. And I mentioned this before, but try to get your eye developed for that, because a lot of traders use this EMA for a trailing stop. And so this is taking out stops right here, did it again right here, did it again right here. This is, you have to be aware of what's going on here. And let's see, after that, this was a fairly smooth one in here. Be aware of the time of day. And this was I love this. This is my favorite kind right here. When this puts up one of these whoops, I'm sorry. Well, now I got that. When this deviation indicator puts up one of these mountains that's above this cloud line, and then it paints an A right up here, this is a great trade, and it will go down for as long as this mountain keeps on going down. And what do we know when you get in here where there's heavy traffic at this crude oil hit this magnet level right in here, and it's also a half deviation, I believe. Yeah, it is. It's the 0.7 deviation. This is where you can expect it to chop. So that's exactly what happened. And if you had put your stop right up here above this to this magnet, you would have been safe and let it continue on down. But once it turns around right here, that trade is, and you also have, you've got a lot of ticks for your tick bank. So when you start to accumulate a bunch of ticks, the likelihood that it's going to keep going diminishes considerably. Okay. And this is another thing to watch over here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 30 minutes, and it is tending to drift down, and it's still drifting down from this A over here. You can see that happen. So anyway, that is my view. Tomorrow there is some news in the morning, especially at 8:30. There is both Canadian and U.S. trade balance. Be sure that you check on the Apex website on the news tab to inform yourself every morning before you start trading just exactly where that news is. I try to do that every afternoon, so I already have that in the back of my mind. And there is news coming out all day tomorrow, and you know, this, I refer to them as the brain trust, but there's going to be a lot of blah 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 tomorrow. Sometimes that can affect the markets. So just be aware that there's all these meetings, and this Drahi character is speaking tomorrow at 1 p.m. And so anyway, there is that, and it looks like Brent has recovered itself a little bit. If it will stay about where it is now without going down substantially, then we can expect West Texas to hold a little bit to the upside. So we'll take a look tomorrow and see what we see. I'll come in at a little before 8:30 maybe. I try to do that to warn any new people to not take a trade at the stroke of 8:30 with news right in front of you. So this has been my view from my world at Apex Land, brought to you by Apex Investing, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.